Hello. So I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents on this 250 greatest guitar players list from Rolling Stone that a lot of people are talking about. When I read through the list last week, my first thought was I really want to make a video on this because I was shocked at some of the omissions, some of the ordering, and some of the people that they did choose to include on the list. So the purpose of this video is I'm going to be highlighting 12 great guitar players who absolutely should have been on the list. But before we do that, I do want to give the list a little bit of credit. They got most of the blues and rock icons who deserve to be on the list. They also got some more obscure names like Joseph Spence, Etta Baker, Elizabeth Cotton, Spanky Alford, and I was really happy to see those names on the list because they're not as well known to the general public, but they did make music that was really influential and important. But there were way too many omissions that we have to talk about. And I think the most egregious one is this first guitar player here, George Benson. I don't know how they missed Benson. It's mind-blowing to me that they actually published this list without anybody saying, hey, we forgot Benson. Because not only is he one of the most celebrated jazz guitar players, he's also a pop star and had radio hits, and people who don't know anything about jazz guitar know his songs. On a technical level, he is an incredibly rhythmic player. He has great vocabulary that fuses blues with bebop. He can play solo guitar. He can play in the trio format. He has crossover music, and he's a great singer. He has a picking style where he slants the pick that's been copied by so many people. He can play with his thumb, like Wes Montgomery style. He can do everything, and he's just one of the greatest guitarists to ever pick up the instrument. So I don't understand this omission. If you've never heard Benson, check out Breezin. Great record, mind-blowing solos. The next omission is also really strange to me, John Scofield, who's one of the most acclaimed and unique guitar players to emerge in jazz music in the last 40 or 50 years. He has a voice that is so singular and unique and has been copied by younger players, including myself. He has influenced so many people, and no one sounded like him before he came out. He fuses blues with bebop and funk and New Orleans music in a style that's all his own. And there's very, very few guitar players who have ever played that have the rhythmic and the time feel that he has. From a time perspective, he's one of the best to ever do it. And if you've never listened to him, this is a great entry-level record, a go-go with Medeski, Martin, and Wood. One of the best to ever do it. Next up, we have Julian Lage, who, in my opinion, is the greatest living guitar player and one of the best younger players around. The list had a lot of great younger players, which was nice to see, but leaving out Julian is not okay. He is a virtuoso who has taste. He never plays anything that doesn't serve the song, and he uses his virtuosity to serve the music he writes and covers. He is an improviser like no other. I have seen him improvise things live where they sound like a Thru composed concerto or something. He has this ability to accept everything he plays and play off of it, even if he maybe didn't intend to. He is so compassionate with his playing, and there's no one that sounds like him, and he is taking from previous players like Bill Frisell and Scofield and Metheny and Jim Hall and making it into something his own. This record, World's Fair, is a solo acoustic record, and I think this is his best work. It has his best compositions, and he's a beautiful solo guitar player too. If you've never listened to Julian, you need to hear this. He's, like I said, I think the best living guitar player. Next up we have Blind Blake. So the list got a lot of the old school blues artists, even some of the really older ones, but they did miss out on Blind Blake. I didn't know about Blind Blake until last year, and when I heard him, it just like blew my mind. These are recordings from the 1920s, and he's playing ragtime on guitar. He sort of sounds like Art Tatum, but on guitar. And it's just like, it's hard to believe it's one person playing. It's like really some of the most unbelievable and sophisticated playing, and it happened like a century ago. And I don't think it's really been duplicated by anyone. If you've never heard it, check out Blind Blake. Essential listening. The next one is another strange omission. Jim Hall, who's one of the most important jazz guitar players. Jim, to me, is sort of like the bridge between the old style of jazz guitar and the more modern style, from players like Pat Metheny and Scofield, Mike Stern, Bill Frisell. Jim Hall is like that transition between the old and the new. He was such a creative guitar player and always changing, always growing. He played with some of the most iconic people in jazz music: Sonny Rollins, Bill Evans, Ron Carter, Bob Brookmeyer, Charlie Hayden. And he had a sound all his own that like influenced all jazz guitar players after him. This kind of dark, sensitive, round tone that a lot of people have copied. And yeah, if you've never listened to him, this is a great record. Jim Hall Live. It's a trio, and his playing is fantastic on this. Speaking of jazz guitar players that are iconic that were left off the list, Joe Pass is up next. Again, I don't know how they left him off here. This is probably the most famous solo guitar record, maybe of all time. I think when you first hear this record, you are just blown away by what you're hearing. I remember first listening to it and not understanding how a guitar was able to do that. He has these like incredibly fast lines between him playing the melody and the bass and the chords at the same time, and it's a great record on where he plays rubato parts, he plays some stuff in time, but it's just like mind-blowing guitar playing, and he's, I think he's considered one of the best solo jazz guitar players of all time, and he should be on the list. Up next, we have Mississippi John Hurt. Again, they got a lot of the old blues players, but they did forget Mississippi John Hurt, and he deserves to be on the list. He has a very unique fingerstyle that has been copied by a lot of other people, and he was more of a country blues artist, so he had kind of a more major sound than a dominant sound. He had a very beautiful voice, and he was a great storyteller through the songs he played. But his finger-picking style is like really complex and beautiful and should be studied. I've been learning a lot of his tunes over the last couple years, and yeah, he's an incredible player who should be on the list. Up next, we have Lenny Breau, who's a little bit more obscure, but one of the best jazz guitar players of all time. He had incredible rhythm. He was a great single note player, and he was a great solo, like chord melody style player. He also had a very unique harmonics style. He would play like harp harmonics, sort of like how you see Tommy Emmanuel do it today, but Lenny kind of did a lot of that first. He didn't invent it. He took it from players like Chet Atkins and Tal Farlow, but he advanced the technique beyond those guys. And yeah, just like if you've never heard Lenny, go listen to any of his music. These are two great records, 5 O'Clock Bells and More Breau, and really one of the most unique players you'll hear. Speaking of unique players, up next we have Wayne Krantz. This is a mind-blowing record. When I first heard this, my brain like exploded. I didn't know a guitar could sound like that. The music that he plays is it's so rocking and forward sounding, but it has the harmonic sophistication that a rock player would never have. It's just like totally unique and singular. No one sounds like Wayne, and it's so hard to copy him. He has a style that's so difficult to play that even, nowadays, like, a lot of people can't duplicate it. But yeah, he absolutely deserves to be on the list. I've never heard anyone play like him, and yeah, you need to hear this. 2 Drink Minimum is the album. A couple more. Paco De Lucia was left off the list, and Al Di Meola was also left off. But Paco De Lucia was in this famous guitar trio. This record sold like millions of copies. It's like one of the most popular instrumental guitar recordings of all time. Paco was also a revolutionary flamenco player and has an incredible solo career that I haven't checked out enough of. But just from this guitar trio stuff alone, he needs to be on the list. He has breathtaking speed and virtuosity, great rhythm, and a great sense of melody. And it's just shocking that they left him off. And I would say Al Di Meola, he should also be on the list. He was a great fusion guitar player, played with Chick Corea, had a great solo career. They got McLaughlin, thankfully, but both of these guys should be on there. Jimmy Bryant, great country guitar player who fused country music with bebop and jazz music, and not as well known, but influential, and he had mind-blowing speed. He was very playful and had a lot of humor in the way he played guitar, and just like very creative. He made a lot of music with lap steel player Speedy West, and this record is a compilation of the music they made together. Really mind-blowing stuff and just like fun to listen to, and it's a great fusion of genres, and he is a great player that more people should be aware of. And last one I'm going to highlight is Freddie Green from the Count Basie Orchestra. Freddie Green was the rhythm player in the band, and there is a style of chord comping that's named after him called Freddie Green comping. And if you're studying to go to a conservatory or study jazz in college, like, you have to learn how to play Freddie Green style comping. And basically what it is you're playing quarter notes, all downstrokes, and small chord voicings. Freddie Green actually mostly used 2 or sometimes even 1 note voicings. And but he has an entire rhythm style named after him. Even though he didn't invent it, he's one of the more famous players who did it. And this record, the complete Decca recordings, is essential if you want to learn more about big band music and early swing music. And and Freddie is all over these recordings, and it's just great rhythm guitar playing. And I think when you have a style named after you, you need to be on a list of the greatest of all time. So check that out. And so there's so many other players that should have been on the list. I'm just going to name off some people that I didn't highlight but should have been on the list. Kenny Burrell, Ted Green, Gary Moore, Mary Halverson, Mike Stern, Johnny Smith, Josh Smith, Kirk Fletcher, Cecil Alexander, Tony Rice, Guthrie Govan, Alan Holdsworth, Jimmy Herring, Doc Watson, Ralph Towner, Charlie Hunter, Robin Ford, Tommy Emmanuel, Barney Kessel, Kurt Rosenwinkel, Lonnie Johnson, Tuck Andrus, Cornell Dupree, John Abercrombie, and the list goes on and on. I'm sure there's people that I missed even on that list. So comment some names that you think should have been on the list, and names that even I missed. Thanks for watching the video, and I hope that you check out some of these players and maybe learned about a player that you didn't know about. So leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.